again. It's important to remember, with all of the history from EDG, FPX, in our last series, much different vibe here. We're here to discover what the LDL has to bring to the LPL in this matchup between LGD and BLG Junior.
It's funny because if you are a long-time LPL viewer, you know that LGD has a lot of history in the league, and they have such a new kind of branding here with all of these new players. Big ones coming in from the LDL. I think for people who are excited, I think you should be really looking towards Climber. He was someone that a lot of people seem to have some pretty high praise for. And kind of looking at this draft, my eyes immediately, not only first pick Skarner potentially here, but there's no Victor ban. So wonder if BLG Junior are going to start picking that up for YXL.
Well, Climber, this is a better opportunity than many to show what you've got on the LPL stage with that Skarner. Another popular band that gets through, the Corki, likely going to be gobbled up here. Expected a bit more for Xiaorui in that bottom lane, though, Alk, than the mid lane Corki, but it is flexible.
For sure. It has a lot of skirmishing power. It did get touched on this patch, but I still think a really strong skirmisher, when you're able to actually get it down in the bottom lane, typically want to have engage supports alongside it. So wondering if that's going to be a priority or how much that's going to be gone, especially with Renata already taken away in the first half of the bans. BLG, though, grabbing themselves the Jax, which could technically be a flex with where it could be going, but if LGD are going to be responding immediately with the Cassante, this is typically not the matchup that we've been seeing kind of chosen for themselves. It seems like they really want to make sure that they get their solo lanes in check and then potentially utilize that R5 for either a bot lane counter pick.
Bot lane counterpicking really on the rise, certainly. LPL right with it. Second time we've seen a Cassante answer to a blind top laner. Don't normally see it on that blue side. Here's the Azir coming in as well. We saw that banned away in game 1. Seems like Azir is back on the rise. XQW will be helming that one for LGD.
Ooh, I like the Lilia here. Lilia, very strong answer into the Skarner as well. And when there's a Cassante in the enemy team, just another champion that you're going to be able to run circles around with the Dream Dust.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll see, especially with this Corki, you can have the options to flex. However, with more and more ranged options from the AD carry pool being taken away, the Ezreal, I have to expect that maybe for our LDL champions, there might be a Caitlyn ban being taken away, as range is really kind of the enemy of Corki, especially pre-6.
Wonder if we're going to see some primary engaged functions banned away by LGD. Loleyu is going to be really impactful on that Lilia, but I always feel like Lilia needs like a buddy to really set up those building lullabies. Obviously, you go for that classic like flash Q into the Zanyas to hit the Lilton Lullaby, but I like a lot of those secondary engage partners. Yone's a really fun one. Like that ban can follow up. We saw Scout helm the Yone just yesterday, but there's a lot of reliable engage tools that you can really lean into the jungle and mid specifically, or excuse me, the mid and support specifically, that can really support Loleyu on this Lilia.
Okay, getting rid of Jin. So not afraid of a potential Caitlyn Lux lane from LGD. And AD mids, kind of name of the game here, especially with a Lilia. Typically, a lot of people are afraid of pairing up double AP jungle and mid, but as long as you have setup, I think you're kind of quite fine. I will say, for the side of LGD, they do have great frontline. Right now, when you look at their squad, I think the Varus ban is very intelligent as well. Another champion that at range can deal a lot of damage to someone like XQW on this Azir and outrange him. So we'll see what the R5 here is for BLG, as they've gone ahead and kind of set themselves up. They have this Corki flex, so let's see what LGD are going to be taking for themselves.
There's that, reliable engage to allow this Lilia to really breathe. So TheHank grabs that one. Whenever you leave Rel up, it's always a reliable lock-in. The Kalista going to be brought in for Shaoye. So that's the aggressive bottom lane you're talking about into the Corki. Maybe not the Caitlyn Lux, but Kalista definitely has to play aggro in that set. Don't normally... The pairing, though, is the question. They'll go with the Alistair to make that tempered fate call really useful in those team fights.
The Alistar, it provides, disengage away from a Lilia, as well as stopping someone like Rel, but this bottom lane has to win the 2v2. And I will say, Corki Rel does have a little bit of damage, but as long as this fight goes really, really far, I think we're going to get into some pretty tricky situations. And I wonder whether or not we were actually going to be getting ignites from our bottom lanes because of how dangerous they are. Instead, they just go ahead and snap at the Misfortune, send the Corki mid, and now this Kalista lane is in a pretty big world of hurt. It's hard for Rel to find engages, but the flat amount of damage that Misfortune offers is really tough for someone like Kalista to deal with.
You can see those ultimate conditions before your eyes now. You can, towards the rift, right, Alk? Just the crash down, Magnet Storm combo with a Lilting Lullaby. You wake up to that bullet time. It's just a ton of damage that, if threaded correctly, can burn through even the likes of the Skarner and Cassante that we see LGD leaning towards.
You know, actually, I really wish I had my glasses on me so I could, you know, just like, well, actually, you don't actually wake up from bullet time when you're asleep. You get the damage amplification, but you don't actually wake up. I think that's the only time I'm going to nerd dog you this broadcast. So you get
okay. I can take it. I can take it.
Yeah, the combo's nice. I agree. The entire combo you laid out is exactly what I was going to talk about. So thank you, Slayer,
that's my
for doing
win.
the job. Exactly. We take those. For LGD, they're in a bit of a tricky situation because not only is the Jax going to eventually be a really big beast to kind of deal with on the opposite side, you are dealing with a bot lane matchup that is incredibly fragile. So I want to see if Climber on this Skarner can actually get a lot done in the early game. He might have to forsake some of his jungle camps, but if it means that you're securing a win for your Kalista Alistar lane, I think keeps you in the game a little bit longer than maybe the expiration date might say.
I wonder, are you foreseeing maybe some lane swap action to get this Kalista in a better spot, maybe matching into this Jax to alleviate some pressure instead of that bot lane?
I think it's possible. Jax is one of the few champions that in a lane swap does end up kind of coming out on top. He has the counter strike, which is so big, and eventually he can kind of just be really, really mobile. So we'll see. It doesn't seem like they're doing that. They're immediately going towards their lane states right here. Misfortune all by herself in the dot brush and doing a little bit of a different 5-point. Typically, you're going to be moving in either your jungle or your mid laner to sit in mid lane, gain vision, and see what's happening. But with this, they've moved over their bottom lane. Shaoye sitting in the tri brush, and then you have YCX immediately in that middle brush of the bottom lane. A very important part of terrain when you're playing the 2v2, and if they're not expecting Alistar to be there, they can actually get the drop on someone.
For now, everyone just waiting for somebody to make that first move. Do see XQW back up a bit from that mid lane. So YXL makes an appearance. Good ward comes across, though, from Climber. We'll spot out any BLG Junior shenanigans before minions crash. We can't escape Victor, by the way, Alk.
Oh, yep, he's just a Victor from Arcane showing up. Now, LQH is here. They find the stun.
Immediate cleanse comes across. Is holding on to that flash. Doesn't feel it needs to use it, so doesn't burn the more key summoner, but we are going level 1 Fiesta here. Flash from Climber is able to cancel the stun across from TheHank. So we do see some flashes burn, some camps accrued for loleyiyu. Able to get out.
What's going on? What are we doing here? Are we moving? Okay, so we are doing the lane swaps. I was wondering if BLGJ were going to be able to pull this off, as they did this over in NEST. They did have a bit of a different roster with Lamb in the top lane and a few other players kind of moving in and out, but they did try this version of the lane swap. They made sure that their AD carry was sitting on a side lane. YXL was on an Azir last time. This time it's going to be the Corki, and having their AD carry support duo walk in, apply pressure. This is going to be pretty interesting, as again, it does mean that the Azir and specifically Corki is going to have a little bit of an easier time farming, but they need to be really careful, and I want to see how they're able to play it for loleyiyu, as with this Lilia, you get farm, you're able to kind of turbocharge the jungle camps, and eventually you can take over a game.
Okay, I want to take my credit for the Kalista Alistar into Jax, but I did not mean this is what we get on the rest of the Rift. I was not foreseeing the MF Rel into the Azir. I mean, this isn't even that tough for XQW to really catch any of these minions.
It's all about being able to get mid priority and move on forward, right? So if they can try to leverage the mid priority to get an extra jungle camp or simply just track where Climber is. I think that ability to gain information is more than valuable than maybe saying, hey, let's just try to get a solo kill in mid or do something like super, super drastic. And LQH is also just doing fine for himself. He's able to pick up most of this wave. At the very least, he'll be in EXP range, and all this is just going to be a trade. Instead of getting HP damage on the enemy top laner, it's just going to be getting plates for your Kalista.
luoyiyu on that bot time side scuttle is going to be contested for by Climber. The bottom lane shifted to mid lane, does roam over, and it looks like Climber was able to steal that bottom crab, so potential double crab up could be available for Climber, depending on once he goes for that reset. He's got the Krugs to take on his bot side camps first.
Look at what we're seeing from the Hank right now. Moving in, gets the vision, so they know that the respawn Raptors are going to be up. Lilia's going to make a beeline for this objective. Their bottom lane, however, for the side of LGD, recalling here, will mean that they won't be able to contest for this. Climber is going to be a very sad jungler in about a few seconds here, as they will meet up on the Raptors. Last time he came over here, he lost his flash at the 1.5 minute mark. I'm sure this time around, I think this is so tough. XQW does not have any kind of mana. They try to make this trade. YCX canceled the recall.
Wow, what a headbutt pulverized from YCX. First blood over to Climber, and Xiaorui is having a flash for the hills, but Shaoye gets the slow. Couple more spears through it can find the kill, but they'll at least be able to claim the Hank on the backside here. Just a couple more dashes. Another headbutt pulverized with the cherry on top. YCX giving LGD a big bonus to start off this early game.
Great job from them to cancel that recall. Is one of the portions I was saying, look, I don't think you're allowed to recall. If I'm the jungler there, I'm saying, you guys, stop what you're doing. Get over to this Raptors, because we will be fighting. If you take a look at this replay here, they invest a lot. I like the fact that Climber is able to get a large majority of the Raptors, so gets level 4 for himself. Snap engage coming in from YCX, and they force out a ton of summoner spells. It may only be 2 kills, but now you've taken away Flash from Misfortune. You have Azir who's going to be having ultimate soon. I think there's a potential revisit to gank this bottom lane coming soon.
You foresee the lane assignment setting back to normal now after all these shenanigans? Bot lanes. No, they're still playing for mid lane. You see this as BLG Juniors maybe trying to lean towards playing heavy for these first 3 grubs that spawn?
Yeah, for sure. You have a Kalista. You have this Jax. There's a Jax on the enemy team or on your team that you really kind of want to make sure that he gets into a side lane. If he's ever alone by himself, you're almost never maybe going to be able to match him as LGD. I wonder if LQH, he's just getting vision saying, okay, look, Azir's recalling, can TP for this play, which is going to be pretty massive.
TP being channeled. XQW trying to arrive to the play as the grubs are being started up by Climber and co. Sasi on the assistance. But it's LGD, they're able to swing over first. They teleport in XQW to match the mid-wave prio, and they're going to secure the 3 grubs, even though LHQ is getting a free fire on that bot lane turret.
So he's getting a little bit of alone time. It's plates. LQX.
Oh wow, Sui's going for it all out down. Doesn't hit the 1Q target, but he's got Climber coming over from across the wall. Flash for YXL, but the Rock wins. Rock, paper, scissors. I'm taking Rock and Climber.
My God, what just happened? Like, I mean, YXL, he gets the flash out. He loses on the trade. Great job coming in from Climber after being able to grab those 3 grubs. Not even starting up the objective on the bottom side of the map, even with LQH TPing down to match this wave. Great job coming in from the top jungle of LGD. One of the reasons why we saw them actually end up winning LDL. I mean, the BLG Junior are the 3rd place team coming in for the most recent split. And, I mean, I don't think they had a losing record in the regular season, and didn't even get to really kind of face up against LGD thanks to the way that their bracket system works. If anybody at home has a little bit of time, we have maybe some downtime in between the games, and you want to go look at a really crazy format, if you think that LPL regular season is weird this year, LDL has some whack formats. There's like insane amounts of teams playing, and we've got 2 of them already here kind of showing off here in the Demacia Cup.
How fitting is it all, right? That this first match, after we got to see, you know, the classics of LPL, the EDGs, the FPXs of Group A, we get this like pseudo LDL rematch. It's also even further interesting because when you talk about the rest of the Demacia Cup, this LGD roster was LDGY when they won the LDL, but now LDGY is a different roster in a different group.
Yeah, there's a couple of members from that LGD roster who ended up kind of moving on forward. And if we're talking about new players, Xiaorui and TheHank are completely new. At least according to some of their history, we didn't have much kind of work on for them. So I'm interested to see what BLG Junior are kind of looking for, especially for a team that I think in the last couple of years, when we look at this organization, has made a lot of strides towards kind of being a top-level roster. When they first entered, they kind of did that doggo roster. They brought over Uzi into the roster, into the league, and so far, they've kind of really splashed big with the last couple of years making some pretty big appearances at internationals. So I think being on such an illustrious org right now who is kind of building out their future and their legacy here in the LPL through the Demacia Cup and likewise LDL, pretty fun to see. Getting back into the game, though, it's kind of been a slower game after those first couple of kills, and a lot of gold, I think, generated, despite a lane swap here. Typically, you would think with the lane swap, you're getting some kind of advantage. You're going to be able to move in for either Grubs or Dragon, but I think biggest winner has been Climber, despite being in a matchup where we expect the Lilia to get ahead fast.
With Ultimate available, loleyiyu should be able to really lean a bit heavier into the advantage of that Lilia, but you pointed out, Alk. Impressive Climber. You know, we talk about this group of stars, future stars for the LPL. Names that stood out to me when asking around. Obviously, we saw Sheer, but Climber was the next one up. And you give him the Skarner, and he's making this look like the LDL was just a playground for the big leagues.
Okay, to be fair to him, I don't want to take anything away from Climber, but Skarner is very OP. Skarner is extremely OP. I just got to see this champion 1v1 a Fiora the other day, so there is no justice in this world for any top laner at all. It is just, this champion is great. Having max HP, the one knock I will have against this champion, he is very boring to play. He is not like a...
Really, because he looks way more fun.
He looks fun, but think about what his abilities are, right? His Q, he just grabs a rock, he hits you. His W, he gets a shield and he kind of like shakes around. His E is probably the most fun for most junglers. You get to kind of ignore terrain, but gonna be 6 Grubs here as BLG Junior a little late to the play here. They do have their ultimates. I think if they're able to make this turn, it's going to be massive. Luoyiyu does have flash on this Lilia, so potential for a big play to come on through.
Sasi looking for an engage. They have the Rel picked down. They're just going to burn through the Hank's health bar, and Climber's able to find another pick on the backside as well. Emperor's Divide going to separate LQH from the rest of LGD as they redraw their battle lines. It lets XQW just start to cook. Flash in, comes across from YCX. Does force out a flash from loleyiyu. But the big win here, 6 Grubs going to be secured by Climber.
Yeah, and that just means that LQH... Oh, you're about to face check into an Azir. No ultimate available. Oh, he got stunned in the middle of his E, so he doesn't even pull him away.
Wow, flashes galore now as Sasi really wanted to get LQH, but yes, they spent his own flash and hopped to a teammate. Funny succession of interactions there, but still the same goal, 6 Grubs with a couple less flashes between the two teams.
I will just say LQH just had the grand escape. Not only does he gets vision, I don't think he's ever kind of stopping the Grubs there, but getting the flash out from the Azir is a pretty big find. We're talking about potentially the Herald spawning in 2 minutes, the Dragon spawning in 1. If you're going to make a play around there, and we talked about the Wombo combo of this BLG Junior squad, I think it's very easy for them to be able to look and say, look, there's a target in mid, let's try to see if we can hit it.
Sasi, I could see the red in his eyes from here. He has the all-out. LQH very, very low, but you talked about it. Very hard to dive a Jack, especially solo. Don't necessarily need to commit for the dive to get this kill. Sasi on his own is going to pick up a first turret with 5 plates. Just cannot understate how much gold that is to LGD
6
alone.
Grubs, and also this is the same lane where you had to play against Corki for a large portion of the lane.
Oh, here we go. The Hank wants his revenge. Crash down Magnetstorm onto 2. They do interrupt loleyiyu trying to get forward. There's the Fate's Call. Impale is going to grab JQH in the middle of his counter-strike. Shuriken Shuffle does not save any of LGD. Here come the juniors exploding onto the rift. And it's only Xiaoye that's able to teleport or flash back to safety back towards topside. Hello! YXL gets dragged over the wall. He thought his turret was the safety. He's able to dash over the wall away from Sasi, but Hopefully he learned his lesson.
And he kind of put the hands on him, though. Like, he TP, didn't use his flash for all of that, gets out. He'll be able to catch up this next wave. There's not a wave here for Xiaorui to push on forward. Really great mechanics coming in from the mid laner of BLG Junior, and they win that team fight. They're able to catch the wave on the opposite side of the map and grab the dragon for themselves. I think all in all, a great string of plays that come off of what felt like LGD almost over-forcing a little bit. They were going for the Gromp invade. Even XQW's ultimate actually forcing the rest of the team. Let's take a look at this replay here. So going for an early invade, but they have absolutely no priority. Look at where Kalista is. She's nowhere near this fight. This Rel actually is able to bring over multiple members. And then now you're just kind of playing at range. There's a great ult coming in from the side of Climber, but I think it's just not meaningful enough. And look at who he pushes over, man. You're sending over the Lilia, you're sending over Jax. It's kind of just like a horror to see.
Yeah, my brain at first thought that that was like an offensive zero. I got switched up. It's like
it was offensive for his team.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, right. But not necessarily the intended goal. The best part about that for BLG Juniors is we talk about the conditions of their fight wins being these critical ultimates they need to really sync together. There was no bullet time or lilting lullaby in that win.
Turns out they just had enough damage. They're also hitting their item spikes here. Big spike, I think, coming in for BLG Junior. You have double Trinity Force. You have Bloodthirster now done for Xiaorui. So if they ever want to make a play, I think in 3.5 minutes time, that's going to be a big look for them. However, LGD going for what is essentially the demolition strategy, which may not be able to win you a bunch of team fights, but get into side lanes, get into a position where you take one good fight, and you can just end the game. You have 6 grubs, a Herald in your back pocket as well. I think you could very realistically say, look, we can ignore this next dragon in 3.5 minutes, send a Herald down one of these side lanes, get our Kalista, or more specifically, I think, the Azir to a second and third item, maybe cheat some gold. Suddenly you get into a position where you're down maybe an item, you can kind of skip an item and a half here and get ahead of your opponents. That could turn into a huge problem for BLG Junior if they're not able to make more magic happen on their side of the map.
Like that play from LQH, though, recognizing how much pressure LGD was bringing towards getting that Herald. So he's able to just grab BLG Junior's first turret of the game, scaling up very well. He's got that Trinity Force stun. The diabolical Jax side lane threat is going to become real apparent as this game evolves on. But for now, LGD are really committing for this mid-tier 1 turret. They teleport on a minion to grab the aggro. They don't even need to use good old Shelly to knock down that one.
So I wonder what the plan here is now for LGD. They've gotten themselves the mid priority. They took mid-tier 1. Now they're just going to reset, go back to some of their lane assignments, make sure that XQW is picking up the top wave. We're sending over Sasi to make sure that he's pushing out bottom lane wave. 2 minutes before the dragon, and I really want to see LGD, if you're going to be contesting for this, not only are we kind of pushing out these side lanes, but making sure we're kind of shifting over our vision. If you look on the top side of the minimap down in the bottom right, you're seeing a ton of boards and control vision over towards this top lane, and you're going to have to eventually move that over before the objective if you want any chance of being able to stop BLG Junior here.
With an Ocean Soul 2 Alk, I mean, critical for any team to be playing for that major win con. And like we talked about, it is scary, even with the Skarner, the way you can navigate the terrain, trying to run into this Rel and this Lilia with the damage behind it from those 2 marksmen.
XQW's TP is coming up soon, and BLG Junior, like you're saying, having those cooldowns available. There's still flashes here for everyone. Shaoye will have that flash coming up when the dragon spawns, so we're going to have a fight where everyone's going to have flash. You're going to have whatever secondary summoner spell you want. And you see immediately from LGD, move into topside river, make sure that XQW can kind of push this wave. They do have the Herald, and they're going to summon it here, so take down the top tier 2, let Jax split on the side lane. BLG Junior, as long as this doesn't crash into inhibitor, I think this is a massive win for them. I think they've cut out a lot of the gold, and LGD were not unable to get enough on this side of the map.
Response on the other side, LQH. With that Demolish, should get some serious damage down, but once he spots Sasi, he's a little too afraid of pushing forward. Sasi, knowing he's got reinforcements coming behind him, looking to force the issue, but a nice leap strike out will keep the game going for LQH with this side lane demon time.
For BLG Junior, I think what we were expecting is saying, okay, look, they're summoning the Herald. They're probably going to be moving Shaoye and YCX in through mid lane after pushing this wave, get them in the bottom lane, make sure that they're applying pressure and getting vision. But because they invested so much on the top side, it's only just now are they able to walk in and apply any kind of fog of war onto BLG Junior here. BLG now can't really walk into this side of the map. They have Corki splitting on the top lane, picking up some potential turret damage and maybe even taking this full structure, especially with that Trinity Force in hand. I think right now if you're a BLG, you might even be waiting for that second item as you're pretty close to getting...
Ooh!
Oh my god, Climber!
Climber caught something in the water. He's got a fresh LQH and he's putting it on the griddle. Kill picked up by Xiaoye, and they're going to continue the push with those 6 grubs and watch the structures fall.
They've got those 6 grubs. Oh my god, this turret literally melts in front of them.
Oh my, what a play from XQW trying to throw Xiaorui to the wolves, and will finally fall to XQW as the Lilia next to go into the stasis. Lolesports down. It is a party in BLG Junior's base, and LGD are kicking the doors down. I don't know. This is a little awkward. All right.
All right, there we go. So they caught the wave. I thought BLG Junior were going to try and catch this wave a little bit higher so that they have to walk through the turret, but great pressure coming in from LGD, and the mid laner here, XQW, finds the engage, is able to take more damage, and while they don't get the turret, I think the more important part is just staggering some of these timers here from BLG. LGD are going to take the dragon and prevent, or at least delay for another 10 minutes here, BLG Junior's soul.
This is why I love Azir in the meta. We're going to see exactly why from XQW, but how about just the aggressiveness from this LGD comp? I mean, it even starts with this Climber play, the pick he finds. There we go.
There's that Azir shuffle, finds Xiaorui, and does channel the ultimate there. And I was thinking, okay, maybe with this Lilia over top, there's a potential for them to be able to climb, or maybe try to make a fight back on under this turret, but too much damage, and really this is Azir, I think, applying a lot of pressure from range. Great job from them, from the side of LGD, to kind of find that. That was a pick out of the litter. There, we were saying, okay, like, I was getting ready for them to move in, kind of take over control of the bottom side river. We talk about starting the dragon, but that's a really aggressive Skarner ultimate coming out from Climber. And part of the reason why I think a lot of people had high praise from those who are watching LDL.
These last couple minutes are why I've been so excited for this matchup. Like, yeah, the fun of EDG FPX, the stoic, the story, how many times these guys have faced off on such big stages, including this Demacia Cup. But we got the youngins now, and you can tell they just hands check each other with these plays, man. They see a window, they bust it open. And we might have another one brewing here with Sasi on the flank, trying to set up, maybe grab somebody. And Pale on the other side comes across from Climber. They're just going to burn through lolesports, who does fall. No lilting lullaby. TheHank is next. The bullet time comes through, but in goes XQW this time. The soldiers say, no, we're not playing your game. So the double marksman from the juniors melt through them, but it's the only kill found for BLGJ.
They're going to start up this Baron, and think about how much damage they do. Kalista plus this Skarner here. YXL and Xiaorui not really in any position to contest. It's going to be the big purple worm going over to LGD, and another great team fight from them, fighting on BLG's side of the river here. So I want to take a look at where exactly a lot of the damage is from. Great job from Sasi to apply pressure to the backline. Look at what they're doing. They're all hitting this Cassante and basically not able to do all that much. And while I appreciate XQW for at least trying to go for it, I think just angled it just a little too... Yeah, I mean, Jax is trying, right? But, I mean, you got what you wanted, which was getting multiple members of BLG Juniors taken down.
I respect the hustle, XQW. You're making a fan out of me right now with how aggressive he's going for these Shuriman shuffles, as we like to call them. Baron available and on the LGD comp. We're looking... Where do they look next year, Alk? They've already got a lot of structures knocked down. I mean, is this just a nightmare for BLG Juniors? 6 grubs, Baron. in the hands of LGD.
It's pretty tough, especially when we're talking about a team that is so reliant on their combo. It is kind of looking at whether or not luoyiyu can find any kind of engage. His flash is coming up as this Lilia, so maybe they can find that sleep and get onto this backline. But this Azir, I think, is just providing way too much value. I think the solo laners for LGD have done such a great job. We talk about the lane swap that happened onto Sasi and XQW. I mean, the lane swap just didn't do all that much from BLG Junior. I don't think it accomplished much of what they were looking for. Climber finding kills in the early game. This Lilia not really getting off to an amazing start. So, I mean, they're just kind of taking everything they can get. It's going to be almost an 8,000 gold lead now after this turret. You're even having in the mid lane. They're going to TP for this play and continue the push with their Baron.
I love a good 4-1 split. Nice to see LGD are subscribing to it. Sasui just has so much health, it's hard to even thread this Cassante on the other side. And here comes a beefed up Baron wave, bringing the mites, it's bringing everybody to try and knock open this BLGJ base.
Okay, pushing on 2 waves. Great timing from LGD to try to coordinate both of the mid and the bottom lane to crash at the same time, make it difficult.
Oh, they just picked. Where did TheHank go? The Kalista damage is very apparent. And now you got a main advantage for LGD, and you could take even more off the supper table.
Maybe they just end the game here. I mean, they have 6 grubs.
Minutes.
Baron is up for another minute in terms of the buff. Very realistic that they could try to look for this, and they still have the Fate's Call if they need to find the engage. Climber still has his Impale. This might be the base defense coming in from Juniors.
There they go. The turret drops. 2 immediate forward flashes from the front line of LGD. Not going to find anything. Just trying to get some space. That's a backwards Impale. Oh, Climber. We're going to want to think twice about that one. YCX goes in, interrupts the bullet time. He gets pulled out by the Fate's Call, but he gets pulled into the meat grinder. My lord, you blink and you miss it. And BLG Juniors make the stand of a lifetime. Ace back to LGD's face.
They're going to run straight over to the Dragon, push out these waves. They're probably not going to get all much off of the waves in terms of the map, but that was a great fight for them and something that keeps them alive. At the very least, keeps their dreams of starting off their group with a 1-0. And I want to look at some of the mistakes that we were getting here from LGD. They weren't able to find this. They do force the summoner spells out from the 2 big carries of BLG, but Climber, this ultimate right here, thank you to our observers for doing that, you know, showing a little bit of a bit of love over to the mid and support for this team. And I mean, just look at what also we got from Shaoye. Cleanse, flashes, but that Rel is just providing so much utility with the crash down in the ultimate.
I just love that. Xiaoye tries to save his valiant support. I got you, baby, with the Fate's Call. Yeah, your fate was a gray screen one way or another, my friend, along with the rest of LGD. That was, what? One more Nexus start away from really feeling like game with the damage that LGD has, and a lifeline has been extended. But you still got to worry about supers in 2 lanes and 1 Nexus turret. Very, very hurt structurally are BLG Juniors.
Okay. They still have a lot of potential to win this game. LGD immediately, I mean, they can move into the top side 2 minutes before this Baron. I think you're under no stress. When we talk about, again, the objective damage, Azir, the Kalista, as well as the Skarner, they can burn almost any single objective they want when they want it. And they still have 6 grubs. It's going to be a permanent buff for them, constantly having to deal with. As BLG, you need to continue to find fights like that. And now you're in a situation, you still have no flash on the Lilia. You still have no flash on the Meph. They're going to make this flank TP with the Jax, and if they can't make it here, it might just be the end of the game.
This is it. Another big stand for BLG Juniors. LQH spotted on the flank. YCX going to go in, gets the double impale set up from Climber, and now it's time to clean them all up. The Stream and Shovel interrupts LHQ, jumping in with the counter strike. A 0 sorcery from XQW, and with 2 picks, that just might be the game.
Teleport's coming in. We're going for it. They've got a minion wave in mid. They've got a minion wave in bot as well. Those 6 scrubs, we just keep talking about them. Turns out they're pretty damn good. So LGD are going to find one more fight around the Nexus.
Down goes LQH, goes into the stasis. Big play from YXL, but he falls flat. You can't burn through the supers, the mites, or Climber. LGD, fresh off an LDL win, make a statement here in the Demacia Cup with their first win.
Moving up to 1-0. Not only what I think we should expect from LGD, but a really explosive game. You know, we were talking about, hey, might be a little bit slow. Maybe we see them play around the bottom lane. We had a level 1 invade where Lilia takes the entirety of the Raptors early on. I thought, hey, that was a pretty great start coming in for BLG Juniors, but I mean, LGD, I think, find their angles. I really love how aggressive Climber was playing. Yes, we saw that flub with the ultimate around the base, but I think he's playing Skarner in a way that we're not really seeing from a ton of their junglers, where I think they're playing more reactive in their style. He is someone who's not afraid to move forward and find the impales.
Yeah, I mean, when we saw the rework for Skarner come through, there was a lot of worry about how obvious that impale cast can be. We can see a ton of flubbed ults. Most of them, we're not counting the ones Climber had backwards, all right? That one was going to miss regardless. But when we're pointing them forward, we see a lot of misses. I think that's a great thing to point out. I think the aggressiveness, the confidence really just was shown on all accords from LGD. I mean, you talked about Climber, but you had XQW on these aggressive Azir angles, YCX jumping in with this Alistar, with a Kalista behind you. You could afford to play that aggressive. So even further, LGD really just executed on the draft that they brought so well and making a statement in this group that feels a lot closer than many of the other ones in the Demacia Cup.
For BLG Junior, I like the idea that these are all players that have been really grown throughout the system. Luoyiyu was someone that started as a trainee over in BLG Juniors in 2023, has been on the program since then. Same thing with LQH, who's actually brought in at the kind of tail end of May this year for LDL. And so far, for having all of their players kind of be new, I mean, we talked about it at the very beginning. I mean, Xiaorui and TheHank are completely new. They're not even the two bot laners that helped them win, or for LGD. These two bot laners are kind of really impressive, and I'm looking forward to what we get from these guys. I think that the decisiveness from LGD is kind of one of the reasons why we see them as the champions. I'm looking forward. If this is what we're gonna get, think about the match versus FPX, the match versus EDG. We might get a banger.
Yeah, and speaking of that matchup, LGD they gotta relax a little bit, because they'll then have to play both of those opponents back to back later. But how nice does it feel knowing that you got the 1-0, you got the more comfortable win of the 3 in this group?
Yeah, I will say, you know, when people come into the tournament, they're always like, okay, the LDL teams, they're just here for experience. We're trying to see what the gap between, you know, some of the LPL teams versus the LDL, and kind of measuring where that contest is at. And at least for right now, these are two LDL teams. We'll see what this looks like going up against those two organizations later on tonight. Gonna be a lot of fun as we get to kind of see some of the highlight reels. This is the one Skarner ult, and I'm just like, literally I'm seeing no other jungler do. No one is trying to say, look, there's a Jax. I'm impaling that guy, and we're killing him.
And then here comes the Azir target spotting. Beautiful. I mean, you could just tell that XQW was staring down Xiaorui that entire time. Oh, is there a flash angle here? All right, got my snag. This is where it really just felt LGD had this game in the bag.
This is such an aggressive play, especially when we talk about just moving into their base. They pinch them as well. I want to see what this LGD roster could do. And for BLG, I think we looked at this game. They started off with the lane swap. I think that they didn't necessarily get all they would have wanted from the kind of swap that they got. And their team fight just also wasn't really in a great position. I think the Jax, unfortunately, wasn't able to do much. Those 6 grubs ended up being a massive pain point for this team. Everyone look away. Look away from the Skarner ult.
Tell me, I'm scared. I don't know when I can look.
I also turned away. Okay, we're good. We both just mimicked Climber right there. We both turned around, and then he was gone. So we made sure that we were good.
We're just missing a couple appendages, though, unfortunately.
We're missing a huge Skarner tail to do anything.
Yeah. We've got these lazy arms. There's a better one. I mean, that's your fight sealer. Gotta love execution.
No damage. Look at how tanky this was, right? Like we came into this. We were talking about through the draft. We're like, is this gonna be something that is really fun to play? Like eventually you'll be able to deal damage. I had big question marks about the Kalista, and eventually I think it actually came on through. It wasn't necessarily for the lane. We didn't actually end up seeing too much of the Kalista in that manner, but being able to have the Fates Call, which is essentially just a free Alistar W at any moment, or maybe some peel, but I think, yeah, LGD I think really used it aggressively, and I love the execution that we got from them. This is the kind of LPL like aggression that we kind of see that makes the game more fun, and we get these kind of wacky games.
It's the hands check that LGD really brought, and I'm glad you made the Callista point, right? It just allowed you to play that ever aggressive because you're not like, you're not worried. Oh no, I'm leaving the Jin back there alone. I'm leaving the Jinx or the Sivir back there. No, Callista's right up there with you, saying, "All right, who are we going for next?" And
Slayer, we've got our time for player of the game. Let's see
okay,
who
my
it
bad.
is.
Yep.
Is it Climber?
Wow.
Yay! We played Skarner! I made a joke yesterday on the account saying that if you would just want player of the games, you just play champions. I got released really soon. Ended up being wrong because KEKW Media Vote gave it over to Vampire on the Rel in one of those games.
Oh.
So
Classic AD carry player. Classic
Yeah,
AD
it's
player
okay.
doesn't like supports getting
it
it.
happens. Look, I'll take a Rel over a Sona any day of the week. But yeah, Climber,
get
I
me
think,
started.
one of the players that we were hyped on when we were doing our story meetings, we were talking about LDL, we were saying, okay, Climber seems like the guy that a lot of people are starting to kind of get their hopes up a little bit for this LGD roster, and I'm glad that, at least in their first game, he's able to show a little bit of that here.
It really sets the stakes for the rest of this group, too, Alk, when we look forward, because now our next match is between the two 0-1 teams, so you could virtually chop this one up between FPX and BLG Juniors. You don't usually survive this just really arduous group. If you go down 0-2, you're basically out. So
No, you're definitely out. There's no way you ever make it out of group 0-2. So
yeah.
Out of 3 games, this next one is going to decide whether or not we're going to be seeing a potential LDL team or an LPL team drop out, and that would be a pretty big upset, all things considered. FPX, I will say, still have some pretty new players, all things considered. Again, their jungler coming in, Sorrow, someone who has been part of the FPX Blaze roster for a long time, and I'm just kind of looking, I want to see a little bit more proactivity coming out from FPX, and I think similar to BLG Junior, we didn't see a lot of those go buttons kind of get off the ground running, so maybe we kind of get that coming into game 2, or maybe we get the dreaded really slow LPL game, which praying we don't.
Well, we're praying here for the fun and fast LPL.
Yeah.
But we're getting closer to figuring that one out here. We're going to go to another short break. On the other side, we're going to get a big-time matchup. One of these two teams go 0-2, FPX or BLG Junior. We'll start by figuring that one out.